Hello, everyone, and welcome to podcast. Well, is this podcast 102, Terry, technically, or is this just a world's wrap-up show?
I think in staying in conjunction with the rest of our podcast, we're going to go ahead and call this number 102.
All
Anytime we've done the
right.
wrap-up shows at other tournaments, we've considered them in succession. So we're going to go ahead with podcast 102 here tonight.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Not too bad. Only like a minute or so passed now that we got everything up and running, our technical issues. You're going to be joined in a couple minutes by Paul Ulibarri, and I'm going to run away for a little while this kind of happens. So tell us a little bit quickly how your day went, Ter.
Overall, I'd say the day went pretty well. We got started off at 12:35 Central Time is when we went live with our women's featured card. I always want to call it the leader card, our women's featured card. And for the most part, from everything that I could tell on our end, as well as from the feedback that we got, it seemed like things went relatively smooth, albeit incredibly hot and very humid out there today. But in terms of a broadcast perspective, it felt like things went pretty smooth for us.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, it was good on our side. There was, I noticed on my side, I saw one or two little glitches in spots, but I think that was more just. I think it was the course. There was some soft spots for signal, but we were able to hide them thanks to the two cameras. So like when one kind of faded, the other one picked up real well. So I don't think anyone really noticed a difference.
Well, that's good. I was talking to both Jeremy Rusko as well as a few other people in the last few days saying that one of the things that's exciting about being a repeat provider of the live service is now we know some of those spots where we have a little bit of challenge. We also are familiar with the course. Not only do I know more about the course, but our cameramen know where they need to be, where the players are likely to land, all of those types of things that really just come with repetition. And it's exciting to be able to come to an event and now feel very comfortable once you get there to know where everything is and what you need to do. So all we can do is hope that we can just keep putting out a good product and hope that we continue to improve either by large or small steps each time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's we've been here 3 times in the past 2 years, and every time it gets better and stronger. And the city of Emporia and ValueNet and all the people in Emporia just really support us. So we're always happy to be there.
Yes, certainly. And we're here tonight on location at the Emporia Country Club. And as you said, in just a moment, we'll welcome Paul Ulibarri to the show. He's going to step in as our official co-host of the night. We're going to talk about what we saw on the course today, what we saw in the scores and the results pages. And we'll see if we can keep it to, I don't know, somewhere around an hour or so. And hopefully we're going to do one of these every night, and Paul may join us on future nights. We'll see how he does tonight first.
It's a good try. It's a good trial balloon to see if we really want to bring him on the team or not. I mean, his pick's not looking so good right now.
Yuli's picks. That's another story. Well, it's Tuesday night, so we're glad to be here for a regular podcast night, although we did start an hour early tonight at 8 p.m. Central. The rest of the week is going to be a little bit up in the air as to whether we're going to be at 9 p.m. or at 8 p.m. You'll really just have to tune into the live broadcast tomorrow, and at that point, we'll be able to tell you if we're going to be at 8 or 9 p.m. the rest of the week. But either way, we're glad to be here. We're in Emporia. We're here for the World Championships presented by Dynamic Disc, and we got to thank the Emporia Country Club, and like you said, ValueNet, who is such an amazing provider of fiber and of high-speed internet to go to multiple places in even a small town like this and find 40 and 50 meg up and down is a dream come true. If there's a reason besides the great disc golf to move to Emporia, I would do it for the internet connection.
That's true. Yeah.
That's how sad my life is. Yeah, I would do it for internet connection.
We know.
So. All right, Johnny, why don't we cut you loose? We can welcome Paul, and from there, we'll see if we can keep the show rolling.
All right, I'm gonna lay the show over to you. Behave. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and I'll probably join you guys in a little while here.
All right, don't hurry.
No, I'm not going to.
We got it.
All right, have a good time.
All right, thank you. And now welcoming to the show, magically appearing just like that, Paul Ulibarri. Paul, first and foremost, thank you for joining us. We're here at the Emporia Country Club, as we said. We're set up. We're in the upper area. People are welcome to come out here. I know they're going to be staying open late and invite people in to have beers and beverages and check out action on the projector screen. They're going to be doing that all week long for the golfers. But let's talk a little bit about your day before we get into it with everyone else. How was your opening round and what's been going on with you?
Opening round was definitely subpar from what I was expecting. Earlier in the week, I actually had a injury to my index finger where I thought I just jammed it, and then it ended up being a little more serious than I thought. Very close to actually dropping out this morning. Figured out a grip that I could kind of push through it and stuff, and it's just, I guess, kind of a day-to-day thing. Hopefully I'll be able to finish the tournament, but we'll have to see.
Now, you said when we were talking just prior to going live, you were saying that it's actually your index finger.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty critical finger. I mean, all of your digits are important,
Yeah.
but your index finger, that provides so much control and finesse and touch and everything else you
Yeah.
need when you're trying to throw a disc. So it's not only on your throwing hand, but it's one of the most important fingers.
Right, I call it my team captain. So team captain's out for the week. Trying to be as light to the situation as I possibly can, but it's definitely to me it's devastating. Coming into the biggest tournament of the year and then having to know that I can't bring my best right now is definitely gets under the skin. But making the best out of it.
And some of the insider information that was talked about from throughout the weekend is you guys were balling. You guys playing a little basketball. You and Ricky Wysocki and a few others. Is that part of the crew that was out there playing some basketball?
Yeah, Sexton, Macbeth. We were just kind of, having fun. We were working out at the gym, and then we decided to shoot a couple shots and stuff, and it was just a random kind of accident and very unlucky, but like I said, trying to make it as light of the situation as possible.
Now, did I also hear that Wysocki may have injured his ankle at one point? Was that during your workout session or your hoops session? What do you kids call it?
Wysocki shot 14 down today, so I don't think his ankle is feeling very bad. So no, I was not there. Yeah.
Okay, but you did hear of his ankle. I guess it was swollen at one point. This time it wasn't a bee sting or a wasp sting.
Yeah, no, I had heard through the grapevine that Drew might have crossed him up and popped the ankle, but you never know.
During one of these next sessions, you'll have to invite the disc golf guy. Not because I want to school you guys. Just I'll record the action so we can put it out there for our disc golf media.
Yeah. I think people would like that.
See that. Yeah, I think they would enjoy it. Now, wasn't that just a year or two ago? We saw a few of you guys calling each other out for some dunks and such. Wasn't that? I thought I saw Coling and Macbeth in on that. Were you part of those shenanigans?
No. Especially with dunking. That is not my forte on the basketball court.
Well, what is your specialty?
I'm a shooter.
You're a shooter.
Yep.
All right. Well, shooter's down a team captain at the moment.
Yeah, I am.
So, any forehands today at all?
The thing is the sidearm's okay. It's just painful. Like it's not the fact that the contact is painful. It's when I throw it, the blood that rushes to the tip of it is what's kind of hurting me right now, because with the sidearm I'm using my middle finger, and then backhand I'm not using it at all right now. Like I'm just resting it on the rim for the first time ever. So that's kind of bizarre, but yeah, it still actually hurts when I throw because of the blood rushing to the tip. But
now, I know I give you a really hard time week in and week out about you changing up your putting routine. Is this really an elaborate scheme to change up your putt one more time?
Hey, man, if it helps it go in, just like I've said 1,000 times, I'm going to change it and I'm going to do it.
Okay. So I do want to address, because it's a very hot question out there that's been coming in on social media throughout the day. Of course, there are multiple cards that were covered out there by a lot of disc golf entities. Yep. So I'm sure as we speak at this very moment, Jomez Productions and their amazing staff and crew are putting together what ended up being Macbeth's tournament leading 15 under par. I heard there was possibly a crew on Wysocki's card as well. I know Central Coast for the rest of the week will be covering what is going to be the men's chase card. Jomez will be on the men's leader card. In fact, I just got a message from Marty over at Prodigy, who's doing the videos along with Prodigy, and he asked where we were going to be. So I think he's going to find another spot. Okay. It may very well be the women's lead card where we were today. Mm-hmm. So there's a bunch of different production crews running around. We're trying to give you the most extensive and elaborate coverage from all these different angles. And if you don't have the time or you're not able to sit down and watch it live, well, then you'll be able to have the recorded coverage. So there's a lot of different ways to consume it. Of course, our title sponsor in the PDGA. You can check out pdgalive.com for all the scores and information as those continue to roll in. You said earlier you were looking at the scores yourself. Were you surprised by anything that you saw as you were kind of watching that leaderboard develop today?
A couple things actually kind of popped out to me. I thought it was surprising to actually see Barry Schultz come out with a 60. I thought that he was almost a shoo-in for a top 10, top 15 performance, and he kind of dug himself a little hole right now in him being, I think, the third most decorated player of all time. So that was a little surprising, and I'm sure we'll see him pop up the leaderboard through the week, but opening round of a 660.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats. Of course, I'm out at PDGA.com, and I see Barry Schultz had come in. He's rated 1028. He shot a 1 under, a 60, and he's got a 10 a.m. tee time tomorrow. And I don't know in my entire playing career of more than 25 years I've ever seen a 3-digit placement next to Barry Schultz.
Right.
So it's only one round, but he is currently tied for 111th place after this opening round. I have no doubt that we're going to find him in the top 20 by the end of the weekend. But as you said, he kind of dug himself a little bit more of a hole than we're used to seeing, sitting down at 1 under par in 111th place. So I'm wondering if there was something. That was a 956 rated round. That's also very uncharacteristic, uncommon for
Absolutely.
him. I wonder if there's a little bit more of a story there that we haven't heard yet. Humidity, a sickness,
right?
Late to the course, you name it. My mind would immediately start to wander to some of the other reasons, because to see Barry Schultz pull in a 956 rated round just is incredibly atypical of him for sure. So why don't we start with we'll start with the women who we covered live today. We like to say ladies first, so I want to start with the women's side of things. We watched a very good group. We had the leader, who ultimately turned to be the leader, in Katrina Allen, shooting a 999 rated 5 under par. They were of course over at the Peter Pan course. Before we talk about more of the women, why don't you talk about that course? You're not playing it this week, but you saw it at the Glass Blown. How do you assess that course?
You know, it's kind of in a way, a deuce or die course, but it's the kind of course that kind of keeps you on the edge also. So it's not like guaranteed birdies in and out every single day there. There's OB, tricky lines, there's water, island holes. It seems like all the holes are kind of tight. So it's just kind of one of those almost deuce or die that keeps you on the edge, where it's real easy for somebody to score even. It's really easy for somebody to go out there and shoot like 10 or 12 down.
Well, we saw, like you said, Katrina Allen shooting the 5 down. Also joined on the card was Natalie Holokai. She was from Switzerland. She she always had a smile on her face. I think it was on the 6th or 7th hole. She had kind of stepped behind Dixon and I, saying that these discs fly so differently, and it could have been we really assessed it ultimately to the humidity and those conditions, but she was saying that she was struggling a little bit with her discs and how they were flying for her. We also saw Paige Bjerkes, who ended up shooting a +1, a 941 rated +1 out there. We had Doug Bjerkes, the tournament director, her dad, come out and really watch the last 9 holes, and that was a testament to, he said, pretty much everything is running so smoothly that Jeremy Rusko said, hey, let's go watch your daughter. Let's go watch these last 9 holes in person. So again, we saw Natalie, we saw Paige, and then we also saw Madison Walker, who I jinxed. I officially iced at one point, only because I was saying that she's been putting very solid inside the circle. She hadn't missed a single putt. And then almost as I'm saying that, she airballs a putt.
Oh, man.
And then I think it was a hole or two later, she had a similar situation. She recovered from them. And that was also when her good friend Paige Pierce showed up and went to the bag for her. So it was great. We caught up with Paige. She had shot a 3 under. She's just 2 strokes off the lead. And she was pretty happy with her round overall. And then, like I said, she came out with 6 or 7 holes to go and caddied for her friend in the heat and humidity in what we saw with Madison's round. So Katrina, we'll run down the leaderboard here. Katrina sitting at 5 under par, which again was rated a 999. She'll tee off at 1040. The other 3 women rounding out the leader card will be Paige Pierce at a 3 under par. and that was rated 980. Jennifer Allen, who I know has been up here practicing on all aspects of her game, not just the distance that she has the world record for. She shot a 2 under par, and then Val Jenkins also shot a 2 under par. And I'm not sure if they went with a tiebreaker on rating or HIJ. Must have been ratings, or I'm sorry, PDGA number. Val Jenkins is going to round out the lead card, but she had also tied Sarah Hokum.
Okay.
So 5-3, 2-2-2, with Hokum being that final 2 under par. She's on the second card. Again, they must have used PDGA number as a tiebreaker. So the top 5, I don't think you and I are all too surprised by who's there.
Not at all. I mean, I think we talked about it even maybe last week on SmashBoxx that those were going to be the names, and they're all really close. And you might see 1 or 2 other ladies jump into the lead card, maybe jump back out. But I think at the end of the week, that's going to be probably the situation right there.
Now, they're going to move over to the Country Club. We'll talk about what the men are doing, but they're moving over to the Country Club tomorrow.
Right.
You just got done saying there's almost deuce or die, maybe a little bit more technical at Peter Pan. Do you see many things changing or anyone having a distinct advantage as they move out to the Country Club tomorrow and the course that it's going to present for them?
You know, I think that Paige and Katrina are going to have a clear advantage over, I feel like, the rest of the field. They throw it accurately and further than everybody, I think, in the whole entire field. And I think they might widen the gap a little bit there. But, you know, Hokum's been playing really solid the last couple of weeks, and there's no telling what she's going to do out there. You know, she can go really, really low in a lot of different situations. And Val's a veteran. You know, she can definitely score on any course. So we'll see. It's a long week.
And then Jen Allen is the world record holder in the women's division for distance.
Oh, yeah.
So her coming out here, she's not going to be at any disadvantage. She may have 30 or 40 less rating points overall, but when it comes to distance, she's clearly not at a disadvantage out here.
Right, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to experience also. I don't know how many lead world championship cards that Jen Allen has been on, but I know that Val and Paige and Kat have been on a lot, so I think that that's going to be a big part. Maybe nerves might be a part of it, but who knows? Maybe it is time for Jennifer Allen to make a big step and push for, you know, the leaders.
Yeah, it's, as you just mentioned, we have 3 very distinguished world champions that are already in that leader card.
Right.
There's 3 of them that make up for 5 world titles. Yeah. Or correction, I'm sorry, Paige along with Val. There's 6 right there, plus Kat. That makes 7 world titles overall.
And Hokum.
And then Hokum is just sitting on that second card. So yeah, there's plenty of competition up on top, and we'll see how that fights out. Over at the Country Club, as asked, Ryan's asking on the board, the length of it. I'm not sure if it's the full distance. We know it's a little bit shorter. There's 2 holes that they play that are shorter than what the open men play, and I believe those are silver tees on 16 and 18, but those are the only 2 holes that are different from what the open men will be competing on.
Right.
So I know I believe I'm not sure if it's the Masters, the Grandmasters, they play a number of silver baskets and silver tees, but for the women, it's just 16 and 18. Those are the only 2 places where I believe that varies at all from the open men. So they're going to be challenged with all the distance found out there on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
course.
What is it? The hole 16 that's shorter isn't even that much shorter to the island hole, where it's just like pretty much a 2 or a 4.
Sure. And 16, for many of those that are familiar with the Glass Blown Open from a year ago or versus what you saw this year, 16 is really the old 18.
Right.
Which plays out to the island hole. Some players can elect to lay up to a drop zone and then throw over, or some people go for it and then ultimately find themselves at the drop zone. That's a pretty... I know there's a lot of situations that can break down between now and then, but when you play 16 in the next few days, what's your game plan? Is that a last second decision as to whether you're running at that, or is that a layup for you?
It depends on the situation. This last year, I remember coming down the stretch of the Glass Blown Open, and I was kind of bubble boy of top 10.
Okay.
And so I actually played it safe, and I got the 3 thinking that a lot of people would go for it, and then I ended up, I think, getting top 10 by a stroke. So I actually played it the correct way for that time, but the year before that I had to go for it, I think, to make top 4, and I went for it and I actually got the birdie. So like you said, there's definitely situations where laying up's the smart play, going for it's the smart play. So
wind, how you're feeling,
absolutely,
how you're putting, how you're driving, how your finger feels.
Right.
So maybe you just answered a question that I could have arrived at, which is, does it mean a great deal of difference to you that when you put your bag in the car come Saturday night, if you finished in 10th place versus 11th? I mean, it's one spot, but does the idea of a top 10 mean that much more to you here at an event like the World Championships?
Oh yeah, to me it does, for sure. I don't have a problem with 11 for some reason.
Okay.
But 12, 13, 14, I have a big problem with.
All right.
I don't know, 11 looks a little better on the stat sheet.
It looks like 2 1s.
Yeah,
in case somebody
like a 1-2.
Yeah.
Or 1-0 or something. So I don't know why, but I don't mind an 11th place.
Okay, but the answer really is that
you
think
about
those types of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, being top 10 in the world, there's something to be said about that, and instead of being 11th in the world, I think a lot of players actually think about that stuff. So
okay. Let's sidetrack for just a moment into when we talk top 10 and you talk numbers and finishes and majors. The name that's not here, that for the first time in a dozen or more years, but the name that's not here that talks about his numbers a lot is Dave Feldberg.
right.
And we saw just a day or two ago, he put out a quick video. I'm not sure if you saw that or not, but he really addressed the Facebook world and said, hey guys, I had the surgery. They removed C8 and C9 or something in his neck or in his back, and he was hoping to be back by possibly the U.S. Championships. That's hit or miss, and he's talking about actually January or February of 2017. What do you think Dave is thinking right now? Dave is a guy who's very concerned about his finishes and
Right.
arguably one of the most traveled and successful players in our sport in terms of his traveling to different continents. What is that like for someone to be sidelined, especially as you yourself, you may find yourself there this week yet?
Right. It has to be, like, I use the word devastating to me, just to find out that I was injured and know that I wasn't going to be 100%. So to not play the tournament, to not be here, to be injured like he is, and he's missed pretty much the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
So as an athlete, I definitely know that he's not feeling great and that, we want to be out there playing. And so I don't think, I think, from me to him, speedy recovery, and we want to see him out here. We want to compete against him. We want him competing out here.
Yeah, it is very different to just not see him here, to not see him on the tour throughout the year. Of course, we all wish you the best of luck, Dave, and just that, your speedy recovery. This may be, he was called the Borg for many years. This may be a little reset in the Dave Feldberg, world of disc golf, to have this time off, which his body has probably really been wanting for the last 10 or more years. He's got this time off, and now he's just going to be flirting with that master's age, as he said in the video. We could see a completely rejuvenated, maybe even a more, a stronger, more driven, more forceful Dave Feldberg when he's playing with a little less pain.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't count Dave out when he's healthy and at any event, and we all know that. And like I said, just a speedy recovery to him, and I hope he's doing okay.
Well, and it just makes me, in my head, to backtrack a little bit to having Hannah Croak on the podcast during the Vibram Open, and she had stepped in and she was talking about, with her field and her training and her background and her education, just talking about what all of you athletes are doing to your bodies and just how hard and how much force that you're using. And someone like Dave, who maybe didn't have some of those precautionary measures or think about them and realize just how much strain and stress he's put on his body throughout the last 10, 15, 20 years of playing. That maybe is why we're seeing some of the issues with his neck, and I think we're going to see a lot more preventative maintenance and care and consideration for those things. The way you guys throw a disc, you were talking last week about power throwers, and with how much force and energy and effort you put into each and every one of those throws, that's something that needs to be considered for the long term.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we're seeing it a little more. You're seeing more and more of the disc golfers in the gym working out, eating better, eating more healthy, staying hydrated, and that's just going to come with the growth of the sport. The athletes that come in are going to be stronger, better, faster. They're always going to be, the next generation is going to be better. So,
and I think we're seeing that.
Yep.
I think someone
Absolutely.
like a Paul Macbeth, who has made it very public,
right.
how he's been out there and what he's done to keep himself in shape. We know all of our different competitors have various off-season routines, but Paul's probably been one of the most, he's almost advertised it, so to speak, the most, or is shared it the most
Right.
as to what he's doing and how hard he's trying to work. And I think you're going to see that as people think, well, hey, if I need to try and keep up, I'm going to have to do what that guy's doing to be very competitive. All right, so we're going to move over into some of the conversation about a few of the other divisions. Of course, thank you guys for joining us. We see there's some chatter on the YouTube message board. I'm going to make a disclaimer that we're probably going to have to make from here on out. More often than not, anytime we're doing a podcast or an actual broadcast of a live event, the YouTube message board is most likely going to be the one that we have any real sense, or it's going to be kind of the official one that we can monitor the best and keep track of. Now that we're putting out to YouTube in 2 different streams or 3 different areas, we're putting out to multiple Facebook accounts. There's its own message boards are kind of just running rampant everywhere. And I would like to just say that more often than not, the YouTube will kind of be the one we deem as the official one, just because it's the one we're most familiar with and easiest to keep track of overall. So making that disclaimer here. Gregory says that tomorrow I should get one of those umbrella hats. I'm not going to lie. I was doing everything I could. I threw all hesitation out, and I was like, I had a kind of a wet, one of those, I don't know what the term is, but the name brand was Perfect. One of those perfect towels that I kind of had around my neck at one point to keep my neck cool. We were walking around with an umbrella out there. I had multiple water bottles and jugs. I was doing everything we could as we were taking it all in. So, all right, let's move on to, yes, Larry, you're tuning in late. Uli did say that he was hurt too. He says he jammed his finger up, and he's going to power through it, and we're going to see where that's going to leave him. All right, let's move into the Masters division. And just as you mentioned, Barry Schultz eligible. He's won world championships in the Masters division. I will have to talk to him by the end of the week and figure out exactly his logic. I don't know if it was the added cash or if he had some other insight or if it was just where he felt his game was best right now to come here and compete in Open. But a very brave and bold move. Maybe bold's better than brave. Either way, a great move here by Barry. But let's move into the Masters division, where not quite the names. It's just been day one. Not maybe quite the names we were anticipating. My co-host, Dixon Jowers, who you may have heard me refer to as Justin Dixon as I closed out the show. There's a Justin Dixon in Wisconsin. Dixon Jowers, Anyway, so I apologize. But Dixon Jowers, I think he said he started out like 7 for 7 or 8 for 8 at Peter Pan or something like that. He had this incredibly hot start. He had one little hiccup, and then he kind of just parred out.
Okay.
But here he is on the lead card. I mean, talk about a guy pulling double duty this week.
Yep.
Gets done working at DD and fulfilling those roles throughout the last few days, then goes out and shoots his hottest round ever at Peter Pan, finds himself on the lead card, and then he runs out and helps me co-commentate. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill. I mean, that's a serious, that's a solid day of work.
Yeah, Dixon is killing it out there. He's everywhere. It seems like everywhere I go, there's Dixon helping, doing something, and then it's awesome to see him actually playing a good round. I didn't even know he was playing. So to see him in the tournament, much less on the leader card. I mean, hats off to him, and I wish him the best of luck. I hope he keeps it up.
Yeah, so he shot an 8 under par, which currently has him in second place with a 10.28 rated round. We see Chris Smith, rated 1,000, busted out a 10.38 round, unofficially rated 10.38 with a 9 under par. So the top 4 are, of course, very tight. We've got Chris Smith at 9 under, Dixon Jowers at 8, J.D. Ramirez at 8 under, and then Patrick Brown at 8 under. And Patrick, of all those names, Patrick's the one you probably would have most likely assumed you would see on the leader card. and those other guys obviously shooting great rounds as well. And then moving on to the second card, there's a few of the more notable names that you're used to recognizing. We've got Simon Feasy, Jason Lapierre, and then Ken Climo and Johnny McRae.
Okay.
So McRae and Climo both shooting 6 under pars, both with low rounds by their standards, being only 1,009. And I had no idea until I just looked a few moments ago that McRae and Climo are exactly tied up at that 1024 rating. To say that they're evenly matched up, I think would be a pretty fair assessment at this point.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see the lead card kind of shake up a little bit. I don't know where they're playing next.
They're going to be over at Emporia Country Club, so they'll be here tomorrow at the Emporia Country Club.
And so, yeah, I think you'll see McRae, Climo maybe make their move tomorrow. But Chris Smith does well out here. I believe he has won multiple times in Emporia, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him hold out on the lead card. And I haven't seen actually J.D. Ramirez play a lot of tournaments lately, so that's cool to see him out again. I used to play against him back when I was in like 2007, 2008. So.
Well, we'll see those guys again. They're moving out here to the country club. Certainly more distance and a little bit better chance for them to spread themselves out. And we'll see how that goes. We also see some other notables just lingering right there on the third card. I think of a Jay Redding, and I think of a Chris Sprague, DJ Ellis, also there on right around hovering on that third card. So
shouts to Chris down a little bit.
Yep, looks like he's possibly sitting around the fourth card. Right. But just to show how competitive it is right now between first place, who's at -9, and then you could go all the way down to say the fifth card, and they're at -4. So just a few strokes, off the pace right there. And obviously, as we see more rounds, we'll see how things can shake up a little bit. I'm going to move over real quickly, take a look at the Masters women. We have some world champions there. Elaine King, Des Redding, Leslie Todd, all sitting on top of the leaderboard, along with Molly Barnes. But I think of a Leslie Todd, Des Redding, Elaine King, all previous world champions in AM or pro divisions. So I'll say no real surprises there. And then local boy in the Grandmasters division, local guy, Ron Converse, out here shoots a -9 to have an opening round and 1042 rated.
Yeah, no surprise to me there. I think we all knew who might be on the top of that Grandmasters, but Ron Converse is a competitor, man. He could have played Masters and been right there, I think.
Yeah. Again, 1006 rated, and incredibly competitive, and obviously knows the courses, knows the area, knows the wind conditions, all those types of things very well around here.
I think he's won the GBO in every
possible division.
Yeah,
maybe. And just real quickly to give a Grandmaster women, we see Pam Renke in the lead. In senior grands, we see Alan Beaver currently in the lead, tied with Rick Vokes. And then senior grands, we see Sandy Gass and Kathy Hardiman very tight. John Kirkland in legends, PDGA number 100. John Kirkland currently has a 1-stroke lead. Pete May in Senior Legends has a 2-stroke lead. And Carlos Rigby in Grand Legends. Grand Legends. I'm going to guess that's 80-ish. 80, 85-ish.
I'm not guessing.
Somewhere in that neighborhood without looking at them. I would say there's 60 if I was looking at them. But I'm guessing that I'd have to really think about what division that is. So we can move back to the Open. We're going to talk a little bit more about them, but let's rewind about 24 hours ago. We were sitting in the players' meeting at the Granada, this beautiful theater in downtown Emporia, the city that welcomes disc golf, the city that knows disc golf so well. What is that moment like for you as you're at this players' meeting? We're surrounded by literally dozens of world champions, the best of the best that have ever played the game, and it's the night before. It's World's Eve, so to speak. What are some of those feelings that you have when we're getting ready for World Championships?
Well, it's humbling for sure. I know to take it back a little bit, the first time that I went to the USDGC, they have a similar thing where the night before the tournament they give the tee times out, and then they have all the Hall of Famers go up in front of everybody, and it's a similar feeling to that, to where it's just this is the one that we all want to win, and the one that we all come for, and people come up from all over the world to see the flags come out, and different people carrying the flags and stuff. It really kind of puts it in perspective.
I believe we have 11 countries represented here.
Right.
Of course, the U.S. being the most represented country, but we have 11 different countries represented, which really makes it a world championships, in my opinion. We have so many different people, and there may be only one or two from any given country, but to see those 11 different flags come out is something that I remember every single year. As part of the opening ceremonies, we saw our PDGA board president, Rebecca Hall Duffy. She gave a great opening, Star Spangled Banner. It's a little bit surreal in the sense, like, as you said, this is what we're here for.
Right.
Everybody thinks about the World Championships, and to know, 12 hours after that,
it's on.
It's go time.
Yeah.
I interviewed Zoe earlier today before she went out for her round. She's like, all right, it's done. Like, you've practiced. You've done everything you can. You're not going to do anything now that, you couldn't have done before. And then her term was focus. And it's just focus on every single shot, focus on what you need to do, and just take one throw at a time to try and get through this week. So it's very exciting to see. I want to take just a quick moment to thank all the sponsors. I'm sorry, I don't have a list in front of me at the moment, but I know we have a ton of different sponsors that have been helping us out through the week. Of course, the PDGA being our title live broadcast sponsor here. The event sponsor, the presenting sponsor for the World Championships is, in fact, Dynamic Disc, but then all of our different sponsors that have contributed in some way. Some people have reached out as recently as this morning saying, hey, we want to support the broadcast. We want to support the podcast. And you're still welcome to do so. Our viewership, our numbers, and the drama is only going to increase. So you still have plenty of eyeballs that can see your advertisement or your commercial or whatever it is that you have, or a special or a coupon code or whatever it is. So if you're interested, you can certainly still reach out to Johnny V and myself. We'd be glad to have you. But I know we saw Miles out there giving us, the Paragon was giving us the scoreboard, and Dave Wastebloom, one of my favorite guys in the sport, and Night Eyes providing the replay today. And we had a number of those to play.
There were a lot.
That was nice.
I was going to say, Terry.
I was actually at the hotel watching the live feed, and to see the instant replay was a really cool touch.
Well, we want to thank Dave over at Night Eyes. I think I heard Johnny V chime in. Johnny,
you did.
Again, Paul can't hear you, but
No.
You chiming in. What do you got for us?
All I was going to say is that as far as sponsors go, we have. I'm going to rattle through them real quick because we didn't get a chance to talk about a lot of them today. We saw some of them in the whole preview. Sally West, Synergy Disc Golf, Chris Cobb, Paragon, Night Eyes, the Pro Tour, Discraft Discs, Dynamic Discs, and of course the PDGA. All of which are helping us put this on for everybody.
Okay, so as Johnny V just mentioned, those are all of the broadcast sponsors that are supporting us. We don't have the list of the hundreds of sponsors probably that are supporting the actual event. Josh has chimed in on the board saying that Freddy's locally here was a lunch sponsor, providing lunch over at Jones East. I know there's been some sandwich shops that have helped provide, and Jimmy John's I know has been involved in some other sandwich shops locally. So all of the event sponsors, thank you to all of you guys and the volunteers. Spotters, people running around in these yellow shirts, just sweating like mad, providing all of the help that they are for us. Last night it was talked about briefly as well, the spotters and the effort that it puts in. What really puts it into perspective for me is knowing there are literally dozens of people here that are running around in this heat and humidity that took off of work just so they could like run down your disc.
Well,
hats off to those people.
When they announced this morning on the tee, they said, we have so many spotters that we just kind of threw a couple out there on random holes that you probably won't even need them. And, that kind of put it in perspective for me. I'm just like, you have that many volunteers that there's people on holes that that are just going to be sitting there. Red flag, green flag,
Well, they're almost probably to a point where they need an additional set of volunteers just to run around and constantly.
Yeah.
Well, I know they're replacing all the water jugs. I mentioned it during the broadcast, and it's worth repeating now. One thing that I've never seen before in an event is when you get to a water jug, and there can be anywhere from 1 to 3 on any given hole. But when you get to a water jug, there's actually a plastered sign on it that says, "Hey, if this water jug is empty, please text this particular phone number, and let us know what the location is, and we'll get someone out here to empty it, or to fill it technically,
Right.
to refill it." And I think first of all, what a great idea.
Awesome idea.
And second of all, it shows the energies and the effort that these guys are putting in out here to say, "Oh, here, text us. We want to make sure we get out to that water jug and get it replenished."
Right, and it's awful to get to a water jug and it be empty and it being that hot. So it's a great idea. I actually didn't notice that, but yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, it is something that I certainly noticed, and I, as a guy who runs a lot of tournaments, but not nearly in this kind of heat, it could be a full-time. I bet you they have at least 1 or 2 people that are basically
Constantly.
full-time just replacing water jugs out here throughout the week. So it's very cool. Ryan on the board asked if today set any new records for FPO coverage. Again, now because we have so many different streams, we kind of have to add up some numbers, and it's not as easy to tell as in the past. But I think with all of our streams, we certainly were close to some record numbers for the women's coverage. We were glad to provide that. I kind of was going with ladies first here this week, and we were certainly honored to be able to bring you the first round from the women's division. A lot of people were saying, well, I would have loved to see Macbeth's 15 under and Waisaki's this or so and so's that. First of all, there was no real lead card to specifically follow on their side, and honestly, Jessie Westbell put it best. She's like, you're going to see plenty of those guys the rest of the week, because we do focus a lot of the coverage towards the men. We realize that. You're going to see plenty of great golf by the men's side, just like we saw from the women's side. So we're glad to spread it out.
Yeah, and the women's card was probably the most stacked card in the whole tournament, if you really think
All right, so let's go there. I'm going to bring this a little closer so people can sure hear you, but let's go there. Stacked cards. That was a discussion before the tournament even started, and I would love your input on that as to, we've seen in the past champions cards, we've seen media cards, some have deemed it. Sometimes we've requested things, sometimes we've been granted those requests, and sometimes we haven't at SmashBoxx. Let's start here. I've got a statement that I need to make, but let's start here. How do you feel about a slightly heavied or favored card in terms of some of our highest rated or most popular players?
I love it. I love it. I think it should be a thing. I think it brings views to a sport that needs to grow, and I think it helps us grow. When people think that you want to throw a different player in there, I don't think people realize the magnitude of pressure that is on that card, and I don't think another player. I don't think it would help them, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So when I hear that, we'll throw another player that we don't know about, the pressure that's on those kind of cards is very heavy. That's essentially the lead card of the tournament. And to see the best players play the best against the best, I mean, that's what everybody wants to see. And like I said, I think it brings views. And that's what we need right now.
Do you feel like in any way it creates an advantage for the people that are maybe on the card?
No, I do not. No, absolutely not. And that's because of the pressure. I think that in a way it might even bring some of the best players down. To be honest with you.
No,
because it's a absolutely extra pressure, no matter what anybody wants to say about it, and to see constantly a good score come out of those cards, I mean, that's going to happen if you spread those guys out anyway.
So one of our most elite players who we've already talked about tonight on the women's side, Sarah Holcomb, publicly said on Facebook this morning, she said, I thank you to the PDGA and I thank you to Dynamic Disc for not stacking any cards, for not creating what she feels like is an advantage. And just as I'm reading her post and listening to her side of things, who very well thought out, I like what she had to say. Right. But then I also look over at Alta World, who's been very active in promoting disc golf this year. Thank you guys. they said they felt as if the PDGA and or Smashbox or whomever missed an opportunity by not creating a quote unquote featured card.
No,
So
and I agree.
those were completely opposite and polar responses. Hokum, a world champion herself and one of the best in the game, doesn't like them, doesn't want to see them, and then an article, for instance, saying it is, and then you're along the lines of you do like to see them. So
Now, there's one thing that I don't like about them. I don't like them at the end of the day. I think that the time for the featured card should be random.
okay.
So I don't think that the featured card should be at 2 p.m. every single time or 12 p.m. the last tee time every single time. I think that could, in a way, be an unfair advantage.
Okay, and even that is sometimes can be a flip of a coin, because depending on what section of the country you're in, we know that a 10 a.m. round at Fountain is probably going to have very different winds and probably less winds
Right.
than a 2 o'clock tee at Fountain. So even there, it can in one way, I agree that maybe it shouldn't always be the last card if it's going to be stacked. But in that case, it may almost even be a disadvantage to them. It could be.
But typically, to get up earlier, to have the wet conditions, is definitely unfair for some people. And if you're having a stack card every time, typically it's going to be good weather at 12 p.m.
Sure. No, and that makes sense. Well, so what I would like to go on record in saying is I have had this conversation, and it was a while ago, so the details are fuzzy, but I had a conversation with Chuck Kennedy regarding this. And if I recall, and Chuck may be out there listening, we had a huge gallery of people watching tonight. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe Chuck had said that statistically he saw no advantage. And if there's one guy that wants to argue stats, it's Chuck.
Right.
And Chuck has a lot of statistics. And I believe he had told me at that point that he saw really a negligible, if any, difference whatsoever in terms of stack cards and having an advantage in terms of scoring. So with Chuck saying that, and then I'm gonna just throw the dagger right out there today. Who was pushing Macbeth?
Right.
I believe the average rating on his card was 940 or 950 besides him.
Well,
so Macbeth was not pushed by anyone that's better than him, as people like to say, or people that are, if you play in a really good card, you're going to play better because you're trying to keep up with them. Nobody pushed Macbeth today. Macbeth pushed Macbeth, which is what the best players in the world are going to do. And
now,
nobody pushed Ricky.
Take you back a step. Actually, there was a kid. I got to throw it out there for my homie Logan Bowers was on the card. I think he might have shot -10.
Okay.
So he actually had a good round, and he's a very good player. So maybe.
What was his rating?
Oh, he has to be 1,000 rated or close to it.
Okay. But the point being, Macbeth wasn't surrounded with.
No, with Ricky Wysocki, Will Shoestrick.
And somehow he still managed to shoot the hottest round in the tournament, the hottest round of the day thus far. I guess that's part of my frustration, and I that's where I don't buy into the argument. And I say this, I'll backtrack into my glory days when I used to go play in Michigan and played with Larry LeBond at Colebrook Park, one of my favorite places. He used to mix the cards. And I was the professional, so there would be a recreational player and an intermediate 2 and maybe a women's advanced player, whatever. Completely mixed divisions. I've won that tournament a number of times, and playing with those other people, regardless of skill level, was something that was enjoyable for me. Yeah. It was something that I feel like I embraced, and I really struggle with that argument when people say, well, when you play with better people, they're going to push you to do better. Not if you're the best in the world.
No.
If you need that kind of help, you're in a lot of other trouble.
Absolutely. And then take, no offense to any players out there, but take a 960, 970 rated player, put him on a card with Ricky, Macbeth, and Matt Oram, and let's see what happens. It's probably not going to be that great. and that's just because it's a different environment to play in. It's intense.
It is.
With the cameras, with the players, with them making 80-footers on every other hole. There's going to be a great shot almost every hole.
Well, and then and someone on the board, as I briefly look over at the board, Ultra Cure says Macbeth probably had to wait around more than he usually did with lower-rated players scrambling all over the course, way harder to get in the rhythm. yet somehow he did it.
Right.
And that's my point. Is people talk all the time about the unfair advantage to these stacked these stacked cards, and I'm not seeing it. And I know the PDGA had said they were really trying to respect the wishes that the players don't like them. I would love a formal poll, not an informal poll of like, oh, let's ask 5 of you. I'd love to poll the top 20 women and the top 60 men and say yay or nay, stack card or not.
Right.
And I would love to know those exact results because, we all know there's going to be no perfect solution that makes everybody happy, but it was definitely a good debate today. I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong way for sure. I don't see it as this big advantage that others.
I know they do it on the PGA Tour.
Okay.
I know that
which is someone argued saying that they didn't do it and that you have to earn your spot.
They definitely do because I actually paid extra money to see one of the featured cards at the Houston Open or whatever.
Sure.
And I watched Ricky Fowler and Sergio Garcia and somebody else, and it was sold as featured card. So and it was more.
Simon Lizotte, I addressed you earlier in the broadcast today. I'm not sure the timing. Yeah, you were awake. You were eating McDonald's somewhere. But Simon, first of all, good to hear from you. Everyone says he's alive. We knew he was alive, just on injured reserve. Simon, I think, just posted in the board saying that he feels like playing in the featured card is actually a disadvantage.
Right.
And some of the reasons you said could be additional pressures, people, that more people are watching around the world.
It's a slower round.
And it's definitely going to be a slower round.
You have to wait for the cameras to get in position. You have to wait for the
I'm just kidding.
You have to wait for the gallery to move. There's more distractions. It's a different kind of environment. It's like being on the lead card. Once you make it to the lead card, it's different. It's not playing your first round with a bunch of whoever's and getting in your rhythm, like you said. Like, you can't do that.
Well, it's again, I'm interested to see the responses. I will continue to talk to players. I do want to sidetrack. We're not going to go too much longer tonight, but I do want to go on one other brief topic that's on tangent of what you were saying. You said cameramen getting into position, things of that nature. For the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and I know for overseas at the Disc Golf World Tour, for instance, there's been a number of times where the players have had to take into consideration, whether forced or otherwise, take into consideration the media.
Yeah.
And by that I mean we may say, hey, at the Pro Tour, for instance, there was a little bit of a break on every tee and said, hey, let's give an extra 30 seconds, not just so we can run a commercial, but really it's to help pace things a little bit. Is that all part of just us growing as a sport and us becoming more professional? And is that something you can put up with, or would you just, would you rather not see? Because when you're ready to throw, you want to be able to get up and throw.
I think it's our duty as the best players in the world to have to put up with that kind of stuff. I played in Estonia on the lead card, and we were on their national broadcast or whatever, for example. And the camera guy, I don't think he was used to filming disc golf, and he ran up with me as I was throwing. It didn't bug me because I kind of knew what was going on, but to the average disc golfer, I think that would be a really bizarre situation, especially when you're competing. And it didn't mess up my shot in any way or anything, but that's just one example of something that I feel like, to give you guys the best angles of what we're doing, to give you guys an action shot, that's something that's going to make us look cooler and make us look better. And it's what we have to do to grow.
And Terry, I was kind of thinking, I know Yuli can't hear me when I say this, but I was thinking the same thing today watching the Olympics. The women were on the vault where they run halfway down the stadium, and then propel themselves over, and the camera follows them the whole way. It's clearly on some sort of track, and it's probably 20, 30 feet away, but these are things that these professional athletes have to get used to as well.
And just to update you, because I know you don't have the headphones yet, we'll get those for tomorrow night. Johnny V was just saying that as watching the Olympics today, he noticed in a vaulting competition that really cameras were getting in position before the runners and the vaulters could go do what they needed to do. And I also, and I know I'm a little biased, but I also feel like those are some of the growing pains and some of those things that are learned as being part of professional sports. If it's very amazing when you watch a Major League Baseball game on TV, or you watch an NFL game on Sunday, and then going to a game and being like, what is going on? Why are all these people standing around?
Right.
And it's like, they're on TV timeout. They're doing things that are part of the overall broadcast. Of course, we're not at that level, and you're not making that money, and nor am I. But it's all part of the growth and things that we just need to do. And hopefully everybody can work with one another to, to make sure we arrive at that. And some days it's better than others. If you're in a groove, it's really hard for me to be like, hey, I need you to hold up for another 18 seconds because I know you want to get up and throw and you want to keep doing what you got to do. But those are, we want to showcase the sport the best we can.
And as we grow as a sport, like I said, that's something that we're going to have to learn. It's not necessarily something that we know now. It's new to me too, but we have to learn to be better at it, all of us, the whole way around. Typically what messes us up is something that doesn't happen often, right? Like sudden movements or something like that. And to address spectators out there, just don't move.
Yeah.
Like when we're playing and we're in the zone, we don't see you unless right in the stroke you move or something. It's something that catches us off guard. So
and usually I today may have been one of the few days I didn't make that public service announcement. I almost always mention it at least once in a broadcast, that just as you said it, you can be in your line, you can be dead center right in your line. It's just a matter of playing statue and standing perfectly still during that time when you throw. And there's some people that are really good about, they'll stand in someone's line, and then I'll see at the last second, they'll lower their head or they'll raise their head, and they're trying to be subtle and they're trying not to make these movements, but then they do one that's so obvious, and I'm just like, no, please stop. I hate seeing any of you guys distracted, and it certainly can happen, and that's again part of the growing and the galleries.
And there's nothing worse than having to wait for somebody to move. When I'm ready to go and then they move and then they see them move and then they have to get out of the whole entire way, that makes me have to reset and redo my whole entire thing, to where if they just didn't move at all, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, there is always that awkward moment. It's like, oh, he saw me. Oh, yeah. I'm going to try and run. No, I'm going to kind of stay. And then usually the players 9 out of 10 times would be like, no, you're good. Just stay still. And then they're always like, well, how do I slowly creep away? And it's like, no, just stay perfectly still throughout the entire time. Comment, which we've addressed many times in the past, about commentators and such interacting with the players. Me at SmashBoxx, I've always had a pretty steadfast rule of, I won't interact with the players unless they're addressing me. And we've said it countless times. Some people are more talkative than others. Nate Doss, who I consider a really close personal friend, doesn't really interact with me too much on the course. He's in his zone. He's got a game face on and he's ready to play. Paul Macbeth, who I consider a friend, is usually pretty chatty, and he's more than willing to talk to you. And sometimes it's about golf, sometimes it's not. Same with a Nate Sexton, yourself, whomever. Every player kind of has a different boundary, but the general rule for our crew is kind of don't speak until spoken to. If you want to talk to us, I'm good with it, but we got to be able to read that situation.
Right, exactly, and that's your guys' job, is having to be able to read what's going on with the player, because there's certain situations you're not going to go up and talk to him. In certain situations you can feel okay about it, and it's just something that you have to learn as a commentator, to be able to read the body language, read the situation in the round, just types of things like that, I think.
And I think that's one a little bit of piece of feedback we got today. Dixon and I were on the microphone for the majority of the round. Thank you again to Dave Wastebloom from Night Eyes, who opened with me. But when Dixon was on as well, commentating with me, I usually will err on the side of more silence than more talking. And I think it's always just a happy balance of, okay, when are you setting up? When are you getting ready to throw? And if there's a chance that I could distract you, I want to make sure that I just shut up, essentially.
Right.
And there's times I'll be mid-word, mid-sentence, whatever, and it may not make sense where I'm leaving off, but I feel like, to me, it's definitely more worth it. If I feel like I'm too close to you, I'd rather just shut up entirely, end my thought, right there, even if it's in the middle of
Yeah.
it. That's something, even working with Dixon, who is a relatively new commentator. He's not doing it quite as many weekends as I am. Him and I will continue to work through, and hopefully we'll get it, dialed in by the end of the week as well. So it's all things that we're learning. Again, huge crowd out here tonight. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're excited to be bringing you a live wrap-up show. It may be at 8 p.m. tomorrow night, or it may be at 9 p.m. Now, with the round starting at roughly 2:30, I know we have to double check that, Johnny, but I believe the round starts somewhere around 2:30 tomorrow. That's a little bit later than we had today, so there's going to be a little less time to get back, get reset, come to the country club and do what we're going to do. And then we may find ourselves later in the week, we may reposition our headquarters here. We're at the country club right now, who's graciously hosted us. We've talked about the Bourbon Cowboy. We've talked about a few places that might be closer to downtown that may spur or generate a few more random people to come in and join us throughout the rest of the week. So we're going to see how that goes. We'll take just a few moments here. We should be having some giveaways, which we're not ready for, but I'll take a few moments to open it up to the board. We see a number of people out there. Billy Bednar says Jones East tomorrow. That is, in fact, with the open field. All of April will be at Jones East tomorrow. Again, they play Jones, Country Club, and then semifinals are at Jones. Final 9 are back at Country Club. So I finally have that memorized. Where the Masters and the women are, that I couldn't tell you. I know tomorrow they're at Country Club, but then their schedule, because they're playing 3 courses over those few days, where you guys are just playing the 2. So, but I will open it up to if there's any other questions. Night Eyes did a great job. I agree. I got to thank Dave for his hospitality and his friendship and all of the sponsorship that he's given us. John's making some notes here that, wow, 3 of the 4 holes Macbeth parred were going from OB. He saved par every time. I saw his UC Maresma and John Tompkins were talking about it somewhere on Facebook today, that Macbeth had 3 OBs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I was talking
That's
about
ridiculous that he shoots a 15 under par
with 3
and has 3 out of bounds and no bogeys still.
I saw him and I kind of made a joke about it. I'm like, really, 3 OBs, 2 eagles? Can you be consistent one time in your
Get
life?
it together.
Like, seriously.
Why couldn't you just birdie them all like normal people?
Right.
So 3 OBs, again, saving par. Did I see 7? I don't know. I want to say it was like 7, 14, and 18. I know 18 was one of them. Was one of the OB strokes.
I couldn't.
I don't recall what they were. I saw them posted. We will, in fact, be on the lead card tomorrow of Open Men. Which, did we ever really formally talk about the Open Men division?
Really.
We really didn't. I don't want to gloss over it too much, but of course, Paul Macbeth at his 15 under par, only I'll say, rated 1081. Ricky Wysocki with the 14 under par, rated 1072. Nico with a 12 under, tying Jeremy Colling at 12 under. So tomorrow's lead card, our featured card that we're going to be bringing to you live, starting at 2:30 p.m., again, is Macbeth, Wysocki, LaCastro, and Jeremy Colling. And then
I don't think you could map out a better lead card, though. Very entertaining.
it should be very entertaining.
Yeah, to say the least.
And speaking to what we were just talking about in terms of interaction and camaraderie within the group, someone like a Jeremy Colling is usually very talkative.
Right.
He's willing to or wanting to have conversations with me or give me funny updates or whatever going on.
Right.
A Nico and a Wysocki are typically going to be a little bit more reserved, pull back a little bit depending maybe on how the round's going. Ricky's almost always in his zone, and Nico can be a little hit or miss as to his demeanor on any given round or day. But a solid lead card, Macbeth with the 15 under, Wysocki 14, and a pair of 12s. I guess it's safe to say all of them would probably just love to duplicate their round.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Macbeth and Ricky are going to do their thing, and Nico and Germ actually, they haven't had their best years so far, stats wise. So that's cool to see them kind of pulling it together at the right time with those first rounds. Hopefully see them keep that up. Anything else on the...
Yeah, sure. Let's go back to a few more of the... then on the second card, we see Devin Owens, Cameron Colglazer, James Conrad, and then Logan Bowers. As you mentioned before, we see them all on the second card at 220. The 210 card, the long-throwing Eagle McMahon, who kind of had one of his breakout breakout debuts, at least to the rest of the nation, was here at the GBO 2 years ago. So we got Eagle McMahon, Matt Bell, Cam Todd, our GBO winner from earlier in the year. So Cam Todd, Matt Oram, Philo Brathwaite, James Proctor, Jason Weldon, Yane, Drew Gibson, Lewis Pitney, Colin Bailey, Jake Laputka, and Brandon Cawthorn. Wow. All tied at 9 under par. There are 11 people tied at 9 under par.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a pretty big log jam there.
Holy cow.
And they're all, what is it? Looks like from 22nd to 7th place is 2 strokes.
Yeah, and then seeing some of the other notables, the Steve Rico, Eric McCabe, Nate Doss, Nate Sexton, all just 1 stroke off of that pace. So 1 or 2 more strokes, and those guys are almost, on the lead card or second or third card versus being back on the 6th or 7th card. So it should be a good battle. I know your fingers kind of day by day and moment by moment, but is there a number? Is there a feeling? What is it going to be for you to determine if you're going to forge forward?
It's tough to say. It got pretty painful towards the end of the round, and it's just really, I guess, if I can deal with it. I don't want to be in the tournament and be in, 40th place playing and grinding it out, trying to, maybe making things worse.
Sure.
I still want to be a world champion, and I know I'm 9 back, but if I go out there and play tomorrow, that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to try to do my best, and I'm going to try to win the tournament. So if I at any point think that I don't have a chance to make the final 9 or something, I don't think I will finish.
Okay. And I know that would be heartbreaking for you and for all your supporters, but you do have to think about this long term as a guy who we talk about just about every weekend on Smashbox as one of the road warriors in our game. We know that you're out there competing and grinding hard every weekend, so you got to think beyond just this week. If this week, if it's just going to hurt more or do more damage than good, then it may be in your best interest to consider what's going to be out here for the rest of the year. We still have other major events and other big things to play for. Do you have any final things before we let you go? Johnny and I will probably wrap up things in a few moments, but do you have anything else you'd like to share with our Smashies and the whole world and this huge gallery of people watching tonight?
No,
and the city of Emporia out there at the bars and all the restaurants that are all taking it in here on Channel 3 thanks to ValueNet?
Right, no, just thank you for tuning in. I know that a lot of you guys are in Emporia watching on some TV screens. I think,
Channel 3, ValueNet. Yep.
My mom said she was at one of the places watching, so hi, Mom. Just thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you hopefully this week sometime.
Hopefully, maybe we'll see you more. Somebody said that you should be a permanent co-host on the show, and they'd pay $5 a year for that. So,
oh wow.
So, I mean, if this disc golf thing doesn't work out,
yeah, I mean, you did mention to see how I did tonight, and maybe I'll have to take your spot.
Maybe. I don't know if. Wait a minute.
Wait,
what? All right, Johnny, are you there, buddy?
I'm here.
All right. If you want to bring it back to us, you and I can close things out. Yuli and I are going to be packing up here in the country club in the next few minutes. But do you have anything else for us that we need to share with everyone today?
No, I don't. I think everything went pretty well. I don't really know what you guys even talked about. So I'm sure
we covered it all. He did a phenomenal job.
No, he's not replacing me. So
he could. No. I mean, he could replace you. Yeah. We're going to cut it short for what is a typical Tuesday night podcast, but we're going to be bringing them to you throughout the week. We're excited to do so. As long as I can rush off the course, hopefully freshen up a little with a shower, and then have a great guest like Yuli. Maybe we'll have him step in later in the week as well. We'll have to see how things go for him. Maybe he could join us more frequently here throughout the rest of the week. We'd love to have it. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Johnny, I'm going to close it out. I'm going to say thank you to all the amazing supporters that are out there, again, of our broadcast today, of the tournament supporters, to our cameramen. I got to say it again, in Gary to the O, along with Joe Height, as well as my co-commentator in Dixon Jowers, as well as Justin Downry, who's out there working for us, catching extra action throughout the entire week here in Emporia. Doug Bierkus, and just the amazing staff and crew, everyone that has any part of this event, the PDGA, Marty Gregoire, Brian Graham, Michael Downs, all of those guys who have been out there hustling things around. It's been a great opening day. We got to thank the Emporia Country Club, as well as the city of Emporia, along with ValueNet, for just embracing us and supporting us, and to use their tagline, Emporia knows disc golf, and that's an understatement. So for Johnny V and myself here on Tuesday night's podcast, this has been podcast number 102. We're going to see you guys tomorrow at approximately 2:30 p.m. Central. We're going to give you the leader card of the Open Men's Division here at the 2016 PDGA World Championships. Again, I'm Terry the Disc Golf Guy, and we will see you tomorrow when you step inside the Smash Box.